Do you do the feet thing online?
No, they do it for me.
What do you mean? What's that mean?
Like in videos, they screenshot my feet and stuff. 5-star ratings on Wiki Feet.
You have over a 5-star rating on your feet? Show me. I get, yeah, oh. Those are pretty good feet. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Yeah?
Yeah, those are winners. I'm not like a foot guy, but they're not ugly feet. They're great feet.
Yeah, I try.
You're not wrong, gang. I would agree with the rating on Nina's feet. Great feet.
Wait. Barcelos.
Yeah.
You said he beat who?
Peyton Talbot.
Oh, how do I forget that one?
Because there's 10,000 fights a year.
To be more effort. You know when he announces
that he could still do both, though. No,
he can still do both, but what is him doing the promotion of it is my question, because he's on his phone.
I'm sure other commissioners are doing that shit behind the scenes too. They're just not on camera.
Yeah, I get that. But when you're on your phone and you're giving me like 240p grainy quality fight announcements, it's like, come on, man. Hype up the sport. I just feel like the UFC could be 10 times better.
The UFC has literally been psyoping its fans into being pro Dana White, pro promotion, and anti anybody that has anything negative to say about the UFC. And in this video, we're going to talk about exactly how the UFC has essentially created its own media ecosystem for the sake of, in my opinion, tricking the fans into favoring the UFC over people that favor the fighters like myself, MMA Guru, people like that. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, is how the UFC has essentially a state propaganda department, and they're not just a fight promotion. They are a vertical media company with multiple different outlets, some of them under their banner and some of them paid by them, all right? So in this video, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about how far MMA media has fallen. My name is Wyatt. Welcome to Fight Society. Now, don't get me wrong. There still are plenty of MMA outlets that do very, very good content. I think that mine is good. Lucas Tracy, Bedtime MMA, people that are friends of the channel like James Lynch, MMA experts. There is a lot of people that make very, very good content about the MMA world and about the UFC that aren't necessarily under the UFC payroll. And that's why those people having such a big voice is a problem for the UFC. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 3 different layers of the UFC's paid propaganda, in my opinion, all right? We will start off with UFC Unfiltered, which is literally a podcast on the UFC website that gets posted to their YouTube with Matt Serra and Jim Norton. Now, don't get me wrong. These guys, they seem like good guys, all right? But this is what the UFC decides to push on their platforms instead of people that actually have some sort of say in the space that people care about and are actually capable of entertaining an audience. I hate to say it. They seem like nice guys, but look at this clip right here. It's unprepared, unenthusiastic, and just straight up boring.
Barcelos.
Yeah.
You said he beat who?
Peyton Talbot.
Oh, how do I forget that one?
Because there's 10,000 fights a year. It's very difficult.
You know what? This is what I'm going to do. They're both there. This is I'll choose this one.
Riveting stuff.
I'll say Barcelos is going to take this.
How?
I'm going to say second round stoppage, TKO.
And then just these, man, they seem like nice guys. Matt Serra's a legend in the game, but this is just riveting stuff here that really gets you fired up to watch the fights this weekend. They're unprepared. They haven't done any studying whatsoever about the thing they're being paid to do. It's actually incredibly annoying. And as you can see, they have done 266 episodes over the course of 9 years. And of course, there was a big gap in between. They actually looks like they deleted some, but they've been consistent for 6 years, and they originally posted it 9 years ago. So essentially 266 episodes in 9 years. Both of these guys have been getting a check for to do that type of work. Barcelos Spice. Oh my God. All right. Now the second tier of that influence that they have is kind of like influencers that they pay to be a part of, in my opinion, like the Nelk Boys and stuff like that. But Nina Drama is literally on the UFC payroll. The second tier of that is this influencer access, like Nina Drama, like the Nelk Boys, Steve Will Do It. Those guys that hang out around Dana White essentially just act as another PR firm or propaganda wing for Dana White in terms of the actual UFC public opinion and media. For example, this clip of Dana White, he goes on streams with Nina Drama. A ton of fighters do, but this right here is just some of the weirdest shit. This makes you think, oh yeah, Dana's a cool guy. Like they just do this, like, aside from paying random non-accountability type of podcasts like Jim Norton and Matt Serra, where they just go on there, talk about the fights. There's no criticism of the UFC, of course, because it's on their own platform. Here, this is Dana White and Nina Drama like goon baiting to draw in young fans, in my opinion.
5 out of 5-star ratings on Wiki Feet.
You have over a 5-star rating on your feet? Show me. Well, I don't mean like, all right. I get, yeah, oh, those are pretty good feet. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
This is a 55-year-old married man, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah, those are winners.
And she's 40. She's 40. She's 40 years of age, yeah?
I'm not like a foot guy, but they're not ugly feet. They're great feet.
Yeah, I tried.
You're not wrong, gang. I would agree with the rating on Nina's feet. Great feet.
And of course, who can forget what and this is more on Tom Aspinall, but this is the type of environment that Nina Drama creates. So instead of having actual people involved in the sport that understand MMA, asking these fighters actual questions, they have Nina Drama starting conversations like this.
Have you ever been fingered by an MMA fighter before?
Fingered?
Yeah, fingered.
No.
What would it take to
To finger me?
Yeah.
Like, are we talking about the same thing? To finger me?
Yeah.
Never.
No. All right.
No.
Well, I've seen some really weird questions on your Instagram, so I thought I'm just going to throw one.
And that's more of like Tom Aspinall trying to be funny, and genuinely that is a funny clip. But like, what this is in front of a UFC logo before a UFC pay-per-view. Tom Aspinall's about to fight for a UFC interim title on this card. It's crazy stuff. Like, hey, you got a back injury. You're filling in on 11 days notice against Sergey Pavlovich, who's one of the scariest guys in the division at the time. And hey, yeah, short notice, life-changing opportunity, but this is what we're talking about. It's crazy. And even when Dana White is not around, his little like kind of hooligans, his little goons like the Nelk boys, those guys will defend Dana White even when he's not around because they're scared of sacrificing the relationship, the friendship, the access, the opportunities, and possibly even the paycheck if there's one of those involved. They run defense for Dana White even over indefensible shit.
Thoughts on Dana? I think Dana's cool, but as a boss of the UFC, there's a lot to critique, so I'll get my content.
I'm kind of curious, like what your critiques are, because let's establish this. There's a difference between a diehard expert and a casual fan.
What are the critiques?
Yeah, but the criticisms about Dana White have nothing to do with whether you're a hardcore fan or a casual fan. It has to do with the treatment of the fighters and the direction of the sport.
There's a difference between a casual fan. Yeah. I'll say I'm a casual fan. I don't know nearly as much shit as these other guys I like to watch, and you're an expert. So if you look at Dana being a businessman, trying to grow the sport as much as possible, you would argue he's doing a pretty good job.
He did a good job. No two ways about that. Like, he brought the sport from nothing to something. That's crazy. You'll never be able to top that. But at the same time, I always say this, Dana's supposed to be doing the fucking promotion for this, and he's out here on the baccarat tables with Steiner.
That's after the promotion. That's late night, bro.
Yeah, but that's late night promotion, but I feel like there should be more effort. You know when he announces...
He could still do both, though, no?
He can still do both, but what is him doing the promotion of it is my question, because he's on...
Him on Instagram Live reading a script, but then when he goes and announces Bob Menery versus Johnny Manziel, he's all totally fired up to announce it.
Menery is back, and he has supposedly signed a deal at Aiden Ross's fight show down in Miami to fight Johnny Manziel, okay? I'm betting 10,000 Menery does not show up. And Bob, if you do, I'm flying to Miami to watch this one.
So he's fired up for that, but when it comes to his literal job as UFC president announcing fights...
on his phone.
I'm sure other commissioners are doing that shit behind the scenes too. They're just not on camera.
Yeah, I get that. But when you're on your phone and you're giving me like 240p grainy quality fight announcements, it's like, come on, man. Hype up the sport. I just feel like the UFC could be 10 times better if someone was a bit hungrier. Yeah, Dana needs like his son to take over the business with new hunger for promotion.
I don't know. Wait, you want the Vince McMahon
I think Dana's
route?
hungry, bro.
Dana's hungry for promotion in the UFC. I mean, he does a decent job, but he could do way better.
I mean, look at this Paramount Plus deal.
Yeah, the Paramount Plus deal that actually to this point has been utter shit. Like literally nobody is actually happy about the Paramount Plus deal because we had a weak opening card. Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje was a fun fight, but a title fight fell off of that. February, Diego Lopez gets a super undeserved title shot. March, we have a BMF title fight that doesn't deliver. And then April, for the numbered event in Miami, they don't sell out the arena. They come up like 6,000 tickets short out of 20,000 on sales. So it shows you the fans are over it with the ticket prices and the low effort. And then Carlos Ulberg ends up winning the belt. Now, that's more on Yuri Prohaska than Dana White, obviously. But Carlos Ulberg is not a star by any means. He has 180,000 followers on IG and he's a UFC champion. Nobody gives a shit about Carlos Ulberg as a champion. Let's be real. So not only do we have the Nelk boys, Nina Drama, all these different people that kind of like run D and try to kind of wash Dana White's job over, like the shitty job that he does for the UFC gets covered up by these silly clips like him smoking with Aiden Ross, this, that, the other. And then here you have the actual credentialed media that is allowed to come to the events asking the stupidest questions instead of asking Dana or the fighters anything of actual substance. I mean, these are the type of things that fighters are getting asked and Dana White is getting asked during UFC press conferences by credentialed media. And that's the thing too, is these credentialed media, like, I'm not going to say any names, but you guys know who, they look down on MMA YouTubers like they're irrelevant in the space when really these people are irrelevant in the space. They're just a part of the UFC propaganda wing. And this is the shit they ask.
Kevin Holland, WWE, UFC merger, one umbrella, past or present, professional wrestling. If you could take one person with the steel chair to the skull.
Everybody's like, this is such a retarded question. This guy's like, what the fuck's he asking? Rob Font's annoyed. And Kevin Holland's like, what the hell is bro trying to talk about?
Who would it be? Or UFC fighter, wrestling ring.
No comment. I'm trying not to get in trouble.
Literally nothing of substance there. And then stuff like this.
I got to ask, mate, out of the whole heavyweight division, whose cup would be the worst to drink from?
Who cup? Say that again.
Whose cup?
Coop. Oh man, what the hell? Nobody.
You're asking, yeah, I know he does the whole throws cup into the stands and stuff like that. But you're asking Derek Lewis which fighter in the heavyweight division would have the worst cup to drink out of? Like, that literally makes me mad that I can't get approved for fucking UFC credentials. You see right here, UFC access. And that's what they do. We have shitty questions being asked by shitty reporters. And then you have people going and asking Dana White, hey, Dana White, how does it feel to be back in Vegas for the 18th time this year? That's the shit that we have going on with the UFC media. And because of things like this, where people that are willing to ask actual questions get banned from UFC media events and things like that and get your account denied trying to get press credentials. When you have that, and then you also pair that with how Dana White goes scorched earth on people that are trying to kind of talk out against the UFC and they're outside of their little bubble of controlled media, for example.
The MMA experts weighed in on what they thought of UFC 300. And for all the fighters that were on this card, when I said this is the greatest card ever assembled in the history of combat sports, this is what the media thought of you guys.
This was an old MMA Guru video, but Dana White did this in post. So leading up to the event, everybody was like, UFC 300 is under delivering. It doesn't have the name value. The main event's not great. No McGregor, no this, no that. And then so Dana White takes all of those pre-receipts because we didn't have the actual facts of how the event was going to play out and become probably the best event of all time because it hadn't happened yet. And this is the shit that Dana White says and basically puts UFC and MMA YouTubers on blast, kind of rephrasing us criticizing the event beforehand and rephrasing it as us saying it sucked after and trying to pit the UFC fighters against UFC or MMA YouTubers.
UFC 300 makes no sense. Is the fight on this card 300 worthy? No.
This is the most diabolically disappointing UFC 300 announcement ever.
It doesn't feel like the culmination of something big.
We were continually told that it's going to knock your socks off.
To blow us away. Nobody got blown away. I don't think anyone else really cares.
UFC 300.
Shout out to MMA experts AJ getting included in that as well.
Disaster.
Are you kidding me, Dana White? The most monumental card that there's ever been. You've had a whole year to prepare for this. Aren't you trying to make sales?
Calls out Lucas Tracy and even around the comments right here above Guru's head in the video because I couldn't find this original video Dana White posted. Zuckerberg saying that card was so stacked and turned out better than expected. Kamaru Usman, damn, that's definitely a 10-7 round for Dana White. Mario Lopez, my guy delivered and kept the receipts, like so cringe, bootlicking shit. And this type of stuff happening, and also the way that Dana White goes after experts with this sort of stuff, like he did last weekend.
As on the internet that are so smart and such fucking experts in the fight business, man. Apparently half these guys out here that have a fucking, just because you have $35 and can start a fucking website and do a podcast means you're some type of expert. You guys should be running fucking Bellator and PFL and ONE FC. Go help these guys out, man. Help these guys. You guys are brilliant geniuses. You know everything about the fight business. Why aren't you running one of these other failing organizations?
The reason they're failing is because they won't bring us in. But shout out Ryzen. He didn't mention Ryzen. You know what I'm saying? He didn't mention Ryzen because Ryzen is an actual threat to where they had to buy out Pride, and now Ryzen actually operates at a really high level. So yeah, Bellator, PFL, all of those things are failing because they don't involve creators that actually understand the sport. They bring in people like fucking Don Davis to run the PFL, and he doesn't know shit about combat sports. He doesn't know anything about anything. I used to beef with him on LinkedIn. He would delete my comments because I cooked him too hard. So you have Dana White firing on MMA influencers and YouTubers and people outside of their little controlled sphere a whole lot. And that is the reason that you have people like MMA Fighting, MMA Junkie, those type of people that just bootlick the UFC and ask softball questions. And even to the point where someone who's not directly affiliated with the UFC, but somebody that is affiliated with who's affiliated. You know, the Saudis own the Ring. Wade Plemons was with the Ring for a while on the Wade concept. You see right here. He's no longer with the Ring, but he definitely still has a good relationship with them. And he's trying to bootlick his way into a UFC job. And he knows the only way to do that is to bootlick Dana White. I mean, this is a video he posted in response to the Dana White moist critical criticism.
More. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Dana White is the reason Charlie got back into the UFC, because Dana White does dominate the headlines. And if I know anything about Charlie, he is chronically online. So he probably has seen more about Dana White in the last 6 months to a year than he's seen about actual fighters in the UFC. So when he says, you know, I just got back into the UFC and I hate Dana White, the reality probably is Charlie got back into the UFC because he saw so much Dana White on his Twitter timeline or online in forums or somewhere else.
No way.
Quite frankly, it's easy to shit on Dana right now because he just makes it so easy. We'll see the...
Yeah, of course it's easy to shit on Dana. He doesn't put any effort into his job, and we're all pissed about it. We care more about his job than he does.
Clip with a little bit about him having a C-section, or his wife having a C-section so he could go to the Chuck Liddell fight or whatever. But there's a lot of easy dunks you can make on Dana White. The product is not where it should be, in my opinion.
So he says, oh yeah, there's all this easy dunks, but then he goes and still bootlicks and puts on for Dana White. And you see the comments down here. Yes, he is a scumbag. Answer your title. Yes. I think this is the most out of touch I've ever seen Wade. The first time Wade made me leave and go watch because he was talking too much. I'm not going to run defense for Dana White. And then he does. Wade trying to get that UFC gig for sure. The Dana defender working overtime. W comment section with a brain. Wade got cooked. When I'm in a defending Dana White's image competition, but my opponent is Wade concept. This might be the nail in the coffin for Wade's channel. I used to think he was an independent thinker. So Dana White's influence over combat sports and the way that certain sections of the media and YouTube and things like that have gotten X'd out is why people are so upset with the propaganda department that the UFC runs. It's literally like 1984 George Orwell, like they're controlling the flow of information. It's exactly what it is, because if you follow just the UFC channels, you wouldn't know that they're being sued for unfair business practices and suppressing fighter pay. And you wouldn't know that Dana White slapped his wife and that Dana White doesn't give a shit about his job anymore at all. You wouldn't. And that's what they want. They want you to see these UFC positive platforms. And I understand they're a business, but there's no independent journalism if you're connected to the UFC. At this point, that's cooked. There are a couple of UFC related podcasts that are different and they actually are somewhat interesting. They're not a mix of either bootlicking like Wade Concept or Nelk Boys or any of those platforms or Nina Drama. And they're not just crazy, boring and, you know, unenthusiastic like UFC Unfiltered with Matt Serra and Jim Norton. You do have a couple. They just launched this new podcast called Deep Waters. You see right here on the UFC on Paramount Plus network. It's called Deep Waters. And it has Dean Thomas, George Masvidal, Dustin Poirier, and Chris Weidman. This is actually a pretty fun show. You had Dustin Poirier saying he hopes the worst for Conor McGregor. You have people actually speaking their minds on this podcast.
It's hard to be the person you were beforehand, for sure, you know, and, you know, I hope the best for him. But I remember in training camp, I would be throwing kicks. Like I would try to force myself.
I hope the worst for him.
Yeah, I know. My bad.
So I know they're kind of just joking around, but they're actually letting people speak their mind a little bit. And then even right here on the Anik and Florian podcast with Ray Longo, John Anik, and Kenny Florian, you have Ray Longo actually going like kind of scorched earth on Yuri Prohaska after fumbling the UFC 327 main event. And I like that even though they're connected to the UFC, you have a UFC coach, a UFC commentator, all of that, and they are still going in on UFC fighters. They're not going like, oh man, he did his best, blah, blah, blah. Like they just whatever bootlicking shit that the UFC wants.
Hey, you blew it. You know, the guy wants to come back now and say, you fucking blew it. Holy shit, you got to be kidding me. I think we first have to discuss mental illness in MMA because something is, you know, it's all funny when the guy's praying up on Mount Olympus and
this is actually funny as fuck.
But this is what happens, man. This is what happens. That poor guy was confused like, mercy. Mercy.
So going in, like, this is actual objective, independent thinking on a UFC kind of affiliated platform based on who's on it. But there's only a couple. There's Deep Waters, and then there's the Anik Florian. And outside of that, you got to go to like independent MMA YouTube like myself and fellow channels like mine to actually get real, authentic, independent takes about MMA and about the sport, about Dana White. So there we have it. We have multiple layers of UFC paid and affiliated platforms, like the actual UFC website having UFC Unfiltered. And then, of course, the affiliated influencers, Nina Drama, Nelk Boys, even Joe Rogan, just dick riding Dana White for no reason. And then you have Dana White going after influencers so much that people like Wade Concept are actually not even being paid by Dana yet, and they're kissing his ass to try to get a job at some point. And you do have a couple of exceptions, like I just mentioned, but that is how the UFC has created this like propaganda ecosystem where fans that don't dig deep into the sport, they're never going to know the truth about the promotion, about Dana, about how bad the fighters are getting fucked, about how little effort goes into the promotion of this, how much TKO is ruining the sport. And if you just came across this info for the first time, you're welcome. If you've been to this channel a bunch of times and you watch my content all the time, thank you. I will see you guys next time. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.